Me, I might stop doing videos. Also me. Hey, let's talk about Xenogears. The Square portion of Square Enix in the 90s were an unstoppable force. Their output on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sony PlayStation was out of this world. I am still playing these games decades later. They were truly on fire during the 90s. These games they released were and are incredible. Yes, of course, they had out-of-this-world titles like Final Fantasies 4 through 9 and Chrono Trigger, but they also had a number of games that, while not absolute hits, were still minor hits. Games like the action-packed Secret of Mana, the Super Mario-centric Super Mario RPG, and mindfuck romp that is Vagrant Story. These are just some of the incredible and underrated titles the RPG giants would release during their golden age. But one game has been on my mind since 1998. The futuristic, Nietzsche-flavored, Christianity-loaded, giant robot-riding sci-fi epic that is Xenogears. Shut up. One part Gundam, one part Evangelion, one part the Bible, and one part Thus Spake Zarathustra. Xenogears is a genetic freak of a game, and the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for Fei Fong Wong at Babel Tower. Xenogears is the type of game that couldn't be made by modern-day Square Enix. It was made during a time when Squaresoft were okay with taking chances with new IPs, and the Square Enix of 2024 would never do a philosophical Christian mech mashup mess of a game like Xenogears. They're too busy putting out games like Forspoken, Valkyrie Elysium, Star Ocean 6, and other plastic bags full of dog poop. That's current-day Square. Where would they be without Final Fantasy XIV? Probably bought up by Microsoft or whatever. Also, how's their NFT game doing? I bet it's doing really well. I played a lot of Xenogears back in the day. I think I've played through 3 times to completion, and 2 of those times were do literally everything in the game playthroughs. This game has a lot to see, to do, to read. There is so much to read in this game. People laud Disc 2 for being quote-unquote nothing but text, but when the story is this captivating and the lore being this dense, I had a hell of a time during Disc 2. I even later got my hands on the Perfect Works book, basically a tome with pre-game and post-game lore filling in even more batshit crazy world building. Although I guess since it's Xenogears, it's actually universe building. Xenogears initially started out as an early draft for Final Fantasy VII, but the higher-ups at Square said that the project was too dark to be a Final Fantasy game. The game was allowed to continue, just not as a Final Fantasy project. The game was then going to be a Chrono Trigger sequel, but that plan was also axed by development. Although Chrono Trigger character Luca can still be found in the opening town of the game. Fun. So, let's grab our copies of Human All Too Human, get our martial arts clothes on, and get in the robot Shinji. I'm Richard for RPG Fortress, and this is Xenogears. Hit the intro. Xenogears' story is basically akin to strapping a Bible onto a nuclear bomb and then blowing it up in your own face. The story, characters, world, and lore in general are all dripping with this melodrama of religious angst, philosophical nihilism, and sci-fi tropes. It's equal parts Nietzschean philosophy, Christian myth, sci-fi, and anime, which I can certainly appreciate will immediately turn a lot of people off, but this stuff, for me at least, is very compelling. The game starts with a lengthy anime cutscene of a starship cutting its way through outer space. This sequence always gave me Star Trek vibes because I am a big fucking nerd. The movie plays out showing an emergency on board and a crash landing on an alien planet. A lone woman emerges naked from the wreckage because anime. The game focuses on the character Fei Fong Wong, an amnesiac man who is incredible at martial arts because anime. Fei is an incredibly tragic and complex character, and the unwinding of his story and fragile mental state are a focal point of the game's story. Fei is one of my absolute favorite game characters due to the incredible amount of emotion put into his history and his character. The world of Xenogears is both alien and recognizable, familiar yet unfamiliar. The characters espouse all of the virtues and sins of humanity, but there are also animal people, monsters, giant robots, nanotechnology, and undead. As already mentioned, Xenogears wears its influences on its sleeve, and the influences bring some very unique mashups of ideas and concepts to the game world. As you progress through the game, you will recruit many interesting characters into your party. Ellie, an officer of Gebler. In battle she wields rods and can use elemental ether attacks. Her mech is pink because she's a girl. Seitan, a mysterious and intelligent character who is one part professor and one part martial artist. Eventually he unlocks a sword and kicks even more ass. Bart, a sand pirate who captains a massive sand submarine called the Yggdrasil. He uses whips in battle, so does his mech. Rico, who's actually Blanca from Street Fighter. Billy, a priest who wields revolvers. Don't really need to say much else. Maria, a child in a very big mech. Choo-Choo, what the fuck. Emeralda, she's a nano-machine colony. Always a member of my party because that is peak sci-fi. I always found myself glued to the screen while playing this game. The gameplay is great, but the story and the aesthetics and influences are just so impactful to me. You can easily say things like LOL, Christian nihilist, giant robots, fight God who's an alien from another dimension, and just so easily write the entire thing off. It does sound pretty silly deconstructed like that, but in reality, the story and world and characters are inspired by and crafted deliberately from Bible canon and Apocrypha, German esoteric philosophy, the melodrama of Gundam, and the soul-searing angst of Neon Genesis Evangelion. The story and ideas and philosophy of Xenogears will always take up a significant portion of my brain. Hey, it's a PlayStation RPG. You know what that means. Some jank, some stank. It's got all of those hallmarks of role-playing games of the time, save for the spots that don't. As mentioned, Xenogears at one stage was potentially going to be a Chrono Trigger sequel, and Chrono Trigger was and is infamous for daring to deviate from a lot of RPG tropes of the time. Xenogears might not go as far, but it definitely has some unique stuff going on. Let's just get straight to the combat. Xenogears has two styles of combat. Your dudes walking around just like any other game, and big fuck-off robot mode. Both are interesting. Not necessarily great, but definitely interesting. Both modes kind of have this combo system, kind of similar to fighting games, but not quite exactly. On-foot combat consists of making combos, not unlike a fighting game. You are stringing light, medium, and strong attacks. Some of these combinations unleash death blows, which do mega damage and look super flashy. You can even delay your attacks to charge up a meter, allowing you to string multiple death blows together to really unleash hell. They look great, and using them on bosses is definitely the way to go. But this combat system for regular, random battles, I don't really like it that much. Like I said earlier, this is a PlayStation 1-ass game, and the combat is really of its time. It is slow. Taking multiple turns to string combos together to unleash a big attack only to walk 5 steps and get into a new fight and do it again is strenuous and tedious. And this game is already super long with all of that dialogue and all of the story scenes. Thankfully, on this most recent playthrough, I had access to fast forward, and you know I used it. Combat inside the gears is similar, but you've also got a fuel tank to look after, so that's something. Outside of combat, both your characters and your gears will have their own equipment. Things can get pretty expensive, but I never really had an issue with money. Now, there are several characters that I shelve for every playthrough, so if you're looking to keep everybody up to date with new gear, it will definitely be more expensive, but who's using Choo-Choo in any playthrough for any reason? Xenogears features fully 3D environments. This was the age of big and beautiful but static backgrounds. So being able to swing the camera around to look at everything is great, but it's a bit slow. and movement is a bit slow. In fact, a lot of Xenogears is a bit slow. But that's the PlayStation era. Things were just a bit slow. This is the age of Knights of the Round, spells and attacks that are just there to look at. Once again, fast forward. There's a couple of mini-games that don't overstay their welcome, rock, paper, scissors, an okay fighting game, and that dumb balloon game. Xenogears looks good. Yes, like I said, everything moves kinda slow, but at least it looks great while it's moving slow. I think the fact that everything is 3D really helps with this. The gears are massive, and the ships are massive, and the dungeons are massive. The game has this absolutely massive scope to it, and of course it does. It's a space opera. It needs to be huge. The gear designs look great and are very well realized in-game. This was the age of Evangelion, so these giant robots could have gone down that more EVA-looking route, and I don't think designs like that would really do it. A couple of the designs, like Maria Zebzen, have this classic old-school-looking design, similar to something like Astro Boy or Mazinger Z, and I wouldn't want something like that to be taken away for an EVA-style robot. I like those vaguely biomechanical designs that EVA has, but for Xenogears, I like that there's a lot of old-school giant robots. And while there is definitely some EVA influence in Xenogears, I'm glad they didn't go completely Evangelion with Xenogears. The characters all have exciting and unique designs. Faye is a classic martial artist. Ellie has a sleek design like something out of Star Trek. Bart looks like he should be a character in something like Outlaw Star. Rico looks like Blanca, etc. These designs work very well when brought over into the realm of sprites. The characters are bright and colorful, but they're not overly cartoony. The soundtrack is one of the best game soundtracks ever written. Yasunori Mitsuda was firing on full blast with this OST. You have pieces that fit every scene, every emotion, every character. Grand themes of adventure and exploration, passionate tracks that are perfect for fights and confrontations, and dark dirges that truly conjure up feelings of dread and betrayal. Just an absolutely incredible soundtrack. Xenogears is a game that I highly recommend, with some caveats. The game is of an age, and that age was one of meandering cinematography. Things are slow and will take you a while to do just about anything and everything, but it is worth it. Even when this game truly grinds its wheels to get from point A to B, it still has things to enjoy. The whole of Xenogears is truly better than its individual parts. Would I play a game with such a slow combat system if the story wasn't so good? Would I play a game that is so plotting without an incredible soundtrack to accompany me? Would I constantly fall down in Babel Tower if the world building wasn't a complete masterstroke? Xenogears somehow mashes space opera, giant robot anime, Nietzschean philosophy, Christian symbolism, and a Celtic soundtrack into an incredible piece of art. And I get that this all sounds absolutely insane. This sounds like a bunch of things pulled out of a hat and blended together. But it works. It works very well. So yeah, Xenogears. An absolutely underrated game. I love it. For RPG Fortress, my name is Richard. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget to hug a cat. Goodbye.